I'm an architectural designer and content creator, and today I will take you through the journey of designing my dream home with Synapse. I'll show you how to create an architecture project from the initial stages of site analysis, gathering references and inspiration, and creating massing and zoning, and all the way to a full schematic design, all inside of Synapse. This video is built upon a real-life scenario where I designed my dream home on a piece of land that I personally acquired last year. All you need to follow along is an internet connection and a Synapse account, which you can sign up for absolutely free by clicking the first link below. So let's get started. Now this is where the actual land starts, and over there we have the main road which actually connects to the road that we are now at. Now as I see the site here, I do not imagine the house actually facing as the main way towards the actual road. I actually imagine having on that side some sort of large vegetation which also blocks the view from the road, the noise and the pollution that actually comes from the car over there. Now over here as well, I imagine having some sort of hedge. I really do not want any like harsh walls and divisions as we go here. And the other thing is I definitely would want it to face this way, because if we actually look over here, and we're going to get closer a bit later on, there is a river that actually passes onto the site all the way to the end of the actual land over there. Okay, so if we go to synapse.app, we will land into this beautiful website, which really does give you a bit of kind of like an Apple design feeling. And immediately it shows you that this was created by designers for people that are going to design. Now you can go ahead and explore the website. For now, I mean, we can just go ahead and click try for free or login in. I already have an account, so the next stage would be something like this, right? So you're gonna have your recent models, you're gonna have templates that you can find, tutorials which you can see me in there. But if you're starting from scratch, like I will start from scratch in the series, you can basically go here and click add a new model. So there is this very cool animating loading screen. And once we land here, we're going to see a beautiful user interface, which I'm going to show you around in just a second in terms of how we can navigate through this. Now, first of all, you can see that there is a frame placed in front of us, and then there is basically the rest of the canvas here, right? So the way that this works and the way that we are going to treat this is that the frame is going to be basically the paper or the canvas where you draw, basically like imagining how you draw by hand, and the gray background here could be the table, right? So everything we're gonna draw is gonna be inside a frame. Now this is our frame. We can obviously go ahead and resize it like this, or even vertically in any way you want. And we can also look for particular formats like A3, the scale which we will draw in, we can change the fill of it, etc. So we can leave it at that for now, which we're gonna go deeper into later. Now over here on the left side, we're gonna be able to find all of the layers which we will draw right here. Very cool for organizing, and then we can also add new frames, and there will be layers organized for frames, right? So if we go here in this top menu, which you can see is very neatly every single tool set we'll need, rectangles, walls, openings, rooms, text, the camera tool, which is going to be for visualization and where we can upload the media. But for now, we can just go ahead and we can add as many frames as we want, something like this, and then we can just obviously customize them in terms of size like I just showed you. All right, and then next up, if we go here, let's explore the left side over here. So if you go over here, this will be the asset library. This is where we can find pre-made assets, so we do not have to go and draw everything line by line or one by one. We can just drag and drop these on the paper, and now we're going to have an asset that we can rotate, we can edit, and everything else. We can also change like the fill colors of all of these. For example, we can make this, let's say, some sort of beige color, or depending on what we will need based on the floor plan. Over here, we can find backgrounds for visualizations, and then cutouts, which we can basically use for elevations, visualizations, and everything else. This is basically the left-hand side of things. We can turn these off or on depending how clean we want to be able to view, and if we're basically just exploring through the canvas. Then we we have this tool set. So I just showed you the frame tool. We also have the rectangle, so we can draw a rectangle just like any other CAD software. We have other primitive shapes, so we can have a circle. We can also change this via this property bar, which is here on the right. So we can type in, for example, 8 by, I don't know, 6, and you can see that is being resized. Then we can also choose the circle, and then we can change the radius of it, for example, to 2, and just customize all of these, right? So these are more the primitive shapes that we can find here. And then we also have the pen tool, which is a lot more organic, which we can draw basically like we wanted to sketch. So this is kind of like a pear or like a violin looking shape. So then over here, we can find other more architecture and building design oriented tools. So we can use the wall tool. You can see it snaps in the 90 degrees angles. Then we can also use the snapping points for reference. So it has a very, very good drawing experience. And then we can basically close down a room to something like this. We can resize the room, we can move these around and everything else. And then, for example, we can also add opening. We can just click once and a door will be generated right inside of the wall. We can tweak the size of it. And then, for example, we can also go ahead and add another opening, let's say right here. We can change the opening type to window, and then this would be a window, which we can resize here as well, right? So I'm just going through the basics. We're gonna go much deeper as we go into the design process and everything else. We can also use the text for annotating, etc., etc. Now, if you do not use meters and you use the imperial system or inches, feet, etc., you can go over here and you can change the units right on this section. Basically, the whole process of this whole video is going to be the same, and no matter what kind of units you use, you can follow along pretty easily, right? And then over here, you're going to find the prompt bar, which we're going to use for image generation. And if we click here, we're going to switch to floor plan generation. I'm going to show you some of those features that Synapse offers later on throughout the whole home design. Over here, we can share this with others. We can invite collaborators. We can work with multiple people at the same time. And this is pretty much a quick breakdown of how we can find things in Synapse. However, we're going to dive in a lot deeper in just a second. So now we are inside the canvas here. We will be able to navigate through everything. You also saw the part where I did the site visit. Here are some site photos that I took, and basically I just highlighted the part where the land and the parcel is at. And then also a top view. This is basically taken from a municipality photo with everything which is divided in terms of lands. And this is the land which we will take care of later on. I'm gonna go through everything. First of all, let's just stop here where we go ahead, find the inspirations, how many rooms we want, in what kind of space. And this is basically the starting point where we get the input to create the output on the site, right? So first of all, this is where I personally land on in terms of what I imagine in terms of style. So from the outdoors, I would really like this very simple geometrical shape. I really like the built-in gutters here as well. I love the very thin frame windows. I love the tone of the wood, and I think something like this could fit very well in the parcel that we have here. What I like about it so much is that I think even the orientation of it somehow horizontally, which we'll test out in the masking and zoning later, would fit very, very well with the parcel that we have here. Now, in terms of what kind of spaces I would want, I think 4 bedrooms would be great. 1 master and 3 other like regular bedrooms. 3 bathrooms, 1 master bathroom, which would be within the master bedroom as well, and 2 other ones, maybe 1 for guests and 1 for the kids, which I don't have yet. And then I think 1 open space for the living room, kitchen, and the dining space. I think this is great because I definitely would want to include some sort of indoor-outdoor connections, and I definitely would want some sort of secluded secondary units for a workspace and some sort of workout space, lifting area. So for these two, I kind of took inspirations from these images. So something like this could work very well for like a, I don't know, an outdoor gym with some sort of jacuzzi or ice baths, which I don't even know if I would ever take anyway, but it would be cool, which I'm not even sure if I would take anyway, but let's see that. Definitely no TV here at the outdoors, and then some sort of office space like this, which I would really love to even record videos and continue my basically career through a space like this, which would be very accessible. So now what I would like to do is that I'm going to go ahead and annotate what I like from every single image, and then those words from which I would annotate on top of these could be used as keywords within our prompts where we shape the design with AI later on, right? So for example, something that I like about this image, I can use the text here and I can just type in, I love the natural light, which is enabled by the large windows. I also love the pitched ceiling, which comes as a reflection of the pitched roof as well. So I think this would be about it. One thing that I like is also the very, I'm not sure if monochrome is the right word, but I love the concrete flooring. I think this is something very cool. It may come out as very cold, but when you have everything else with warm wood colors, I think that kind of makes up for it. Let me increase the size of the text here. I will go for 26, maybe even more. So let's go for, I don't know, 36. I think something like this is fine. So this is what I love about this. And then I would say the cement flooring, and I would say the concrete flooring. Now, in terms of this image, what I like a lot about this is that it shows that even though it's an open space, it still has some sort of divisions between like the living area, seating area, the kitchen, and the dining. I'm not sure if it would be exactly like that, but I kind of love the idea to have some sort of flexibility in terms of when we would want a fully open space, or do we want a hybrid in terms of that. So I would say division between different zones, different functions. And then here, I mean, this is just a wonderful space. I think something which definitely stands out for me here is the indoor-outdoor connection. I mean, the views, the sunsets, I could imagine something like this being exactly in this property. One thing which I'm not sure how I'm going to address, but I'm going to find out later on, is this hill here, which is going to block out a lot of the sun. But let's see how we're going to figure that out later on. Anyway, so we're going to go right here. I'm going to type in the indoor-outdoor connection as one of the key highlights over here. And then, I mean, from these, I think what I would love for these two spaces to be, and I think I'm going to write about these in general, is that I think they should blend in with the main unit of the home in terms of materials and volume. Yeah, I mean, I also like the fact that they're secluded and separated in terms of, I mean, definitely no noise coming in from the rest of the house, and kind of gives you this isolations and a good way to focus. Let me just increase the text size of all of these. Once again, I'm going to go for, I don't know, let's do 52 for now. Okay, so now for the main hero image that I really like here, I would say a few things. In fact, I will highlight them with shapes as well. So if I go here at rectangle, I can just use a circle and just, for example, highlight this. I can do some sort of blue stroke and increase the width of it to like 3 points, and I can just type in something like hidden gutters. This is a lot cleaner than how it's done usually. And then I also am going to use the R key as a shortcut for rectangle. I like the very thin frames. I love the thin frames of the windows as well. Definitely love the skylights over here. I think these are a great addition to, you know, bringing in as much lighting as possible. I'll just use another rectangle right here. I'll just create a duplicate of this rectangle with Control D and then resize it, you know, just to highlight these perfectly. So all of these as inputs, things that I like about this, we can just use as inputs for the prompt later on when we create the visualizations and the design aesthetic of everything. I mean, everything else is pretty much general, so I'm just going to copy this and I'll just type in simple geometry, great tone of wood. Love the tone of wood. And then obviously the big windows and everything else. So this is pretty much how I would summarize what I love about these reference images and what I plan to take from these and to apply onto the plot here and the site. Now let's see if that would be possible when we take all of these and try to apply it onto our site here. Okay, so this is the top view of our existing site. Basically, the site that we are going to build on is the one which is highlighted here with gray, and this is an orthophoto from like a satellite. I can go here at the existing site tag and I can just go ahead and turn it off for now, and we can just leave the outlines and the simple shapes that I did for now. So for example, the road, an existing home here, and then this is the river that goes right alongside the parcel. And what I would love, if possible, I would like this part of the site fully kind of outlined with trees so that they block the sight line of the actual people from the roads from this side, and also the noise, right? So noise is mainly going to come from this side, no other sides. These are basically neighboring homes and there's no other roads around. So I think the trees, if we place them in this part in some sort of large vegetation, they're going to be very helpful in terms of dealing with noise, in terms of dealing with, just helping with privacy overall. So I'll just place some of these for now. These are, illustrations and nothing like too specific in terms of landscape design, and that is not our goal here anyway. Our goal is just to create something very schematic, right? And probably we would continue with these on the other side here with, the neighboring parcel in case someone builds something in the future there. All right, so this is one part of it. Now, something else is that the only way this is accessible via a vehicle is through this side. Now, where do I want to enter with a car? I think most likely we want to be entering over here. And I do not want like some sort of like garage, a traditional garage. I probably just want some sort of shading to put it into. So I'll just copy this parking symbol. This will show that this is where we will leave the car, and this will be somehow where we will enter as well. And then the rest of the wings and the units of the home will be developed over in this side. Now, these symbols here are for the winds, right? Now, this side over here sits in between two hills, and usually between two hills, and this is not a canyon, but kind of like a canyon in that sense that it's going to have, a lot of currents of wind by either side, but basically winds are going to come either from this side or this side, and obviously we have to protect for that. I think having the trees over here is going to be a very good way to do that. I'm not sure if I'd want something put over here. Let's remember that we're going to have the entrance, so we're not going to be able to fully do that. But let's see how this whole thing will go. So as you can see, the sun will actually rise from this side and then it will set on this side. From what I can tell, obviously this depends a lot on the season and the time of year, but most of the time it's gonna rise from this side and there's gonna be sunlight until, I don't know, about 9 a.m., 10 a.m., and then there's gonna be a lot of shade. Maybe not in midday during the summer, but there's going to be a lot of shade, especially during the winter, probably until like 3 p.m. or something like that, right? So we're going to see how we will address this. Now, this has its pros and its cons because during summertime, it will be a lot easier to kind of keep it a cool temperature indoors, and there's going to be a lot less energy used for temperature. But during winter time, this can cause issues with obviously more energy being spent in terms of keeping the house warm, and for snow taking a lot longer to melt, which can mean more maintenance, right? So these are two parts of everything, right? So this is basically the site analysis. We have the sunlight analysis, we have where the winds are going to come from, where we want to place vegetation, and why we want it there. We're probably going to place some smaller trees here and obviously on this side. This is not like a full landscape design, but this is just to kind of strategically think about even the privacy issues and noise issues that we might have from the road over there. So this is kind of just a very simple illustration slash sketch of, just doing some site analysis. Obviously the videos of visiting the site are going to help a lot in order to have a clear idea of how the site looks like. We have the pictures where the site is and obviously the river here and everything else. With that said, I think what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to duplicate this. The existing site. I'm going to delete all of the site analysis blocks for now, and I am going to leave just the vegetation and everything else. And now we're going to get started with the zoning, the massing, and everything else. Okay, so now it's time to go through the massing and zoning. Basically, what we will aim to do is to kind of just divide and see what areas of the functional spaces and arrangement will kind of look on in the later stages. But this is very early stage. This is just to understand the scale of every zone. And basically, this is just a way on how we will create the zones to respond to the side that we just did the analysis on. Obviously, this is an iterative process. It's not that we will do one rectangle once, so we will not change it as we go on to the process. But it is very useful just to sketch things around and kind of get an idea on how the flow of each space will look like. So right here, one thing that we understood very early on is that we will most likely have the entrance of a vehicle and the parking right here. So what I can basically do is I'll just leave this as some sort of light blue zone. Then, as we said on the brief here, we're going to have one main unit, which is going to have all of these, and then we're going to have a workspace unit and a workout space. So we're going to have, first of all, some sort of entrance and hallway, which is probably going to be here in the back. We're going to look at the scale correctly. I think this having, I don't know, probably a 3-meter width is going to be more than good enough. And then the length of it could be something like 7.2. So this can be kind of the entrance area and basically where we will be able to move to the rest of the zones. Let's just do this as we're just going to apply some sort of yellow here. And what probably is going to happen then is that the main living area where we'll have obviously the seating area, the living room, and the kitchen is going to be here in the middle, and we will most likely have the master bedroom here near the entrance. We're going to look at the proportions a bit later on, but then we'll have the 3 bedrooms here on the side, so that way the connecting and the gathering zone is going to be here in the middle from both wings of the bedrooms. And then the outdoor units are going to be probably one of the workspace and also the workout area going to be here on the outside, and we can kind of connect these with some sort of pergola or anything like that, right? So now let's just see a bit on the scale of everything. So the master bedroom can be just a little bit smaller. This will be the living area. I'll just leave this a light green for now. This will be one of the bedrooms. So this will be the master bedroom. This can have a 6-meter width, and then probably a 9-meter length will be more than good enough for the master bedroom. It might even be a bit too big, but I think we can just tweak things around as we go once again. And then this rotated can be 2 regular bedrooms, or let's see how we develop the rest of the stuff there. So in terms of the square meters, in terms of this overall, I just want to see where we are in terms of scale and where we stand. So in order to measure that, we can just use the room tool. So this seems to be in total at about 260 square meters, which I think at this point it seems a bit reasonable, but let's see how efficient we can be with the use of space as we move further on. So then this can be 2 bedrooms. I'll probably imagine the living area be around here, and then we're probably going to have the kitchen somewhere right here. This is probably going to be the dining area. This is just kind of have an idea and an orientation in terms of the flow. What we can do as well is that we can leave one of the bathrooms somehow right here behind the kitchen. The master bathroom is probably going to be somewhere around here with a bed area going here. Something else that we can do, I think, is that I can also leave this utility area here where we can have the pantry in half of this. We can leave half of this as pantry and then the other half as utility room for like laundry, etc. These can be very small, but I mean, I still think these are quite useful. The bedrooms are going to be closed just to throw the clothes here on the way outside of the bedroom. Maybe not as close for this, but let's see, because we can probably also leave it really close to the entryway as well. So now these two, basically these two masses here, if you leave these with a 4.8 meters width with a 6 meters height, or maybe if we go even a bit more, 7.2, I think this is going to be completely fine. And I can probably just duplicate this on the other side. Not sure which one of these is going to be the workspace and which one of these is going to be the gym, but one thing that I'm sure of is that I would want them to be aligned vertically, because placing these horizontally would just cause to block a lot more of the sun to these areas rather than just leaving this vertically. And we could probably even move these a bit more downwards if we wanted to. That way that even less shadows are going to be casted. But let's see how we're going to place all of this. So the entrance is most likely not going to change. I think we're going to get started from here. We can have a patio here. I'm just going to leave this as a beige color as well, some sort of outdoor area. We probably have room for a small pool as well. Not sure if I want to overcomplicate everything, because I'm not going to build it in the beginning. I just want to leave it as an option here if later on I would like to build it. So these two are going to be more so like, I guess, workout and work areas. So I'm just going to leave these at gray because they're not super exciting. Actually, these are probably the most exciting. So I'll just leave these super bright yellow. I don't know why yellow would mean excitement. But no, I'll just leave these gray for now because I'm not sure which one is going to be which yet. So as I'm thinking about this, I do not like the fact that these two bedrooms will have separate entryways. Because if I want to leave a bathroom for both of them, it means that one of them is going to have to go around the whole kitchen and living area in order to access the bathroom. So what I'm thinking is, if, for example, this would be the bathroom, I could probably just divide the bedrooms something like this. So these could be 3 separate spaces, and then they can have the same bathroom here. And then we probably are going to leave like just a toilet slash like WC area as well. So I think this makes more sense. Let's see how large this area is. So this is 22 square meters, and I think this is enough for a bedroom. What I think could be an issue with this one is that it would barely get any sunlight. So what we can do is we can basically displace this a bit. So what I mean by that is let's just leave this for one of the bedrooms, and then the other one can be a little bit displaced so that we can win some sort of sunlight here. And this can be just a little bit smaller, for example. And then the other one could come up to here. I mean, not all of them have to be super large. This is turning out to be a bit too long of a corridor. Maybe this can be a bit smaller, and then we could make these also a bit closer over here, so that the runway of the corridor is a bit shorter too. So one entrance could be here, another one here, and another one here. I think this is very good because it really makes that quiet zone for when it's time to rest, and also the same here. Now, the reason why I love the master bedroom over here, and this is maybe just me being paranoid, but I really feel like the parents being more in control of the entrance, it just feels a bit safer. I don't know, for me psychologically, I'd feel a lot more in control if I had more control over the entrance and everything here. Now, don't get me wrong, if someone wanted to intrude, they could just jump like through these vegetation and everything over here. It just psychologically makes me feel better to have a bit more control over this entrance zone. Now, it also makes sense to have some sort of toilet or like the other bathroom slash WC over here. It looks very awkward for now, but we're gonna kind of blend this in with the rest of the stuff. I'll show you how in just a second, because basically if we have guests and basically they're not gonna take a shower here, right? We're gonna have guests, and this is gonna be the seating area. It's gonna be very accessible to this side. Also, even if you don't have guests, if you're just chilling on the seating area, it's gonna be a lot more accessible if you go from the living room here than to go through this side to this bathroom, or even inside the master bedroom. And then we could also leave the utility area somewhere around here because it's going to be a lot more accessible. Now, I don't want to just randomly place these inside of the already existing parameter, because it's just going to block the whole flow of everything. Now that I'm thinking about this, if the entrance of this bedroom is going to be here, then we could just make this a bit bigger. Would it make sense to leave the pantry and the laundry room kind of in the same area? Because I was thinking maybe if the kitchen is a bit over on this side, and then if we leave the toilet over here to have access from this side, and this could be... Now this is the part where it's very fun to kind of puzzle everything in, right? Because it does make sense to have the kitchen right here, and I think it's going to be more than good enough in that placement. The seating area here, this flow makes sense. This is going to be where we will arrange the bedrooms. This is going to be the bathroom. This could also be smaller. I mean, let's see once we place everything in. We can have the pantry over here. We can have the laundry room, for example, just divided with a very thin wall. And then this can be the WC, and this can be the toilet or the third bathroom. I mean, the other thing that we can do is we can also leave the entrance from this side and kind of have the toilet there. But I mean, the flow from entering makes a lot more sense to enter right here than going like all around. So I think we're gonna do something like this. So the entrance can still come from over here. So this toilet area is not going to be that big, right? So let's just leave it at this for now. It's probably going to be even smaller. We can just leave it at, I don't know, let's just give it some sort of light purple. What we can do is we can just rotate it over like this. So this could also serve as the entrance. I think this is going to be fine, right? So this could be the entrance. You go inside here. You have a fast toilet if you want to access it. It's easy from the living room. Even if you're standing outside, it's not too far. You enter right here. So let's just do a quick flow. So you come inside here, you enter, and you can distribute from here, right? So this would be the living area. If you immediately need to wash your hands from coming from the outside, you can go here. Then you also have the access coming from the outside to going here. And then you can also go from the living area, you can go to this part, bedroom 1, bedroom 2, bedroom 3. And then even if all of these three are gonna have access to this bathroom. Everything looks messy, but it will just make sense in just a second, right? So this has access here. This has communication with the kitchen, with the dining room from both sides. Then we probably are going to need the pantry from the kitchen. So that's going to be the pantry as well, which we can access. And the master bedroom is going to be right there. I think this makes sense. So if you're in the living area, you can access the dining table, you can access the outside, you can access the toilet. The distribution to the bedrooms is very good because you have peace and quiet, and then also privacy for the master bedroom from the kids' room. Then you're also going to have the pantry right next to the kitchen. The kitchen is next to the dining table. You have easy access to the outdoors. There's enough lighting here in the corridor. There's lighting for this bedroom. These two bedrooms are going to have lighting. This is going to have lighting as well. It's not going to have lighting in the morning though. So what if, right, because there's going to be east, right? This is why this is super useful. There's going to be east, and morning sunlight is going to come from this side. So these are going to have very good morning sunlight. But what about this? So this is going to be interesting, because then if we pull this up to get morning light, then this is going to block the sunset light to the rest of the home quite a bit, right? So the shadows, if the light comes from that side, the shadows are probably going to come to something like this, which is a lot of shadows. Very interesting. So how do we actually address this? We could probably leave some sort of skylights like this. Not the biggest deal, I would say, but still something that I would like having as an option, you know, just the morning sunlight to come in. All right, so now in terms of where I would want all of this to be placed inside the parcel, do I have any preferences? So what I also imagine is probably having some sort of fireplace near the river. Honestly, not sure about the environmental effect. As long as it's clean, I think it's going to be fine. Some sort of hammock, just an area to chill. This is probably going to be behind the pool or something like that after the pool would be built, which I'm not drawing it for now. But I think this is going to come out very, very cool. But we can think about the amenities later on. I think this is very important in terms of how everything is placed. Now, yes, there is also the options of having these two units completely secluded and then not having, you know, any effect in terms of light, or not huge effects in terms of light, right? But I also wanted to have some sort of connection, easy access, along with, you know, the privacy that I would need. I think let's just leave these the same way they were. So this is how I imagine these zones and the flow to happen. Everything looks super messy and there was a lot of moving around, but this is how this phase is supposed to be like anyway. In terms of a section, I don't have exact surveys of the land, but what I would imagine this to look like, you can just copy this and rotate it multiple times. What is most likely going to be here is that we're going to have one volume, something like this, and then this volume is going to be probably on the same level. In fact, you know what? I think because the river is so close, it would actually make sense for these to be a bit higher up in terms of volumes. Then obviously this is going to be one kind of height and volume, so I'm going to leave this right here. Probably something like this. We're going to check the heights a bit later on. These are going to be connected with pergolas, and then the river is going to be somewhere here. Not sure about the heights once again, but we're going to play around with everything. Okay, so we can just take off the trees for now. Take off the trees. We can delete pretty much everything from here. I just want to see a section to kind of see the context between the volumes. Now these are going to be kind of the same height. So what will happen is that the height of something like this is going to be probably, the height of a ceiling is probably going to be 3.4 meters. So let's just do this for now. All right, let's lower this down. Okay, and then boom, this is going to be one polyline. Let's do this in the middle. I mean, the pitch is going to be something like this. I don't want to go to too much like measuring for now, like angular and everything. I don't want to deal too much with the angles. It's probably not going to be a very harsh pitch, even though it's very good for, you know, winter time because it does snow here. Let's just make this one volume. These two are going to be one volume. Let's just make this a bit lighter because that is a bit more inwards based on what we drew. And probably we're not going to push this part of the roof inwards to where that volume is, because I think it's good to have some sort of protection from, raining and everything else here. And then this is going to be same height as this. And then we have the river. This is just me doing this by guessing based on the impression on the site visits that I've had in this land. The terrain is something like this. This is where the land starts. So what I'll do is I'll just draw a line here. So this is the outline kind of the land. This is probably going to have a pitch as well. So this is going to have a roof, which is not going to be the same height as this because it doesn't have the same length and width. But let's just leave it to something like this for now. And then these are going to be connected with pergolas. I'll just draw something like this with dashed lines. So this can be 20 by 20 in terms of dashed lines. So we're going to leave that. And then this is going to be some sort of patio here. I'm not sure how you're going to dress the level differences that we will need to create here for, just being safe in terms of the floods. So I'll just leave this like so. This is just a schematic type of section just to see the context and the communication between the volumes for now. These might be a bit too close, and the height of this, I do not want it as high, and maybe we just leave this with a flat roof because we do not want too much shadows caused by it. Or we can also leave it with just one pitch, if that makes sense. So we're going to test that out as we go along in the journey of the design. So I think this is just kind of simple shapes, volumetric. What we can do as well, we can also use the cutouts here for the vegetation, right? So this part is going to have some vegetation, probably going to have some smaller shrubs on this side, and there's also going to be communication between these two units and volumes, right? Now later on we'll do a lot more of detailed drawings of like the elevation section, etc. But for now I think this is good enough to kind of have an idea of what we're drawing here. And obviously in this side, we're going to have a hill, which is pretty steep, to be honest. So let's rename this to schematic elevation. Okay, so now that we have some sort of zoning, some sort of massing, and kind of an idea of how we can arrange all the spaces, I think now we can move into making this a bit more detailed, drawing elevations from this side as well, and adding on to add more details and actually make this a real floor plan that we can use for, schematic design, and also for having some sort of concepts that we can iterate on in terms of visualizations as well. All right, so now let's turn the masses, the zones and everything to something which is functional and a bit more technical in that sense. So let's get a bit more accurate with everything. So what I will do is I'll go ahead and just duplicate this. I will actually put this frame right over here. Let me get a bit closer, and probably now we are at the stage which we do not need such a wide side context. So I will just go ahead, select everything here, move things a bit to the top left to something like this, and now we can make the frame a bit smaller and focus in on where we actually have the side. Okay, cool. So first of all, what I want to do is I will go ahead and I will add the parameter of the walls. So let me go over here. We're going to go to wall. I'm going to select a wall. I'm going to get started from this point all the way to here and basically outline the whole parameter of everything. Let's see if we can actually go straight here. We're gonna see if we. I want as less deviation and as simple of shape as possible, but we're gonna check and see what is going to be possible. So I am going to select this. Let's put this right there so the actual walls meet properly. So now I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to select all of the walls. So I will select all of these walls. I will make it a darkish gray fill and then basically a full-on black stroke, which should be a bit thicker for the sake of hierarchy of these exterior walls. Let's do 1.4 on the stroke thickness, right? And then we probably want another wall division which goes right here. Now these interior walls would probably be a bit slimmer because the exterior ones are 0.3 meters. These we can do 0.2 meters. And let's also apply the same fill and then same dark stroke with 1.4 width in terms of the stroke. So let's go ahead and actually divide these two as well. In fact, let's move this a bit to the left. Let's add a fill. Let's add a stroke, 1.4. Let's see if there's gonna be enough space here for a 90 centimeter door. It comes up to here. I think we can draw the separation wall somewhere around here, and I think it would be fine. Same dark gray fill, and then 1.4 black stroke. Then next up, let's just divide this way as well. Let's select all three of these, add another gray fill, just like the rest of the walls, dark black stroke, 1.4. So right now we're basically just drawing the wall, so I'm gonna make everything come together in just a second. What I'll do is I'll just take off the circulation kind of arrows, which are not even arrows, just lines for now. Let me actually continue this all the way down, and then the same thing for this wall. And then over here, we're gonna see how big we'll actually want the bathroom. I think this is good enough. And then right here, we're probably going to want to split this between the pantry and the actual laundry room. All right, and then let's close this in terms of the toilet. Let's put this a bit downwards. Let's go ahead, add another fill, apply this 1.4 black stroke, and then right there. Okay, cool. Now this part is going to be a bit of a tricky corner. We're going to find out exactly how we'll address that. But that, I think, let's just leave it at that, because we might not even do like a real door there. But this is going to be the kitchen. What I'll do for this is let me just add a gray fill for now. Stroke, let's just leave it like this. And then I think 0.28 in terms of stroke thickness will be fine. Okay, cool. Now let's just select this. Let's select this. We're gonna add the fill right here. Dark gray, fully black stroke, 1.4. We might want a kitchen island, so I'll just leave this here. Same fill as the kitchen. And then we're gonna add the dining table right here. I'll just duplicate this and maybe just make it a bit larger. For now, we'll be a bit more detailed with the furnishing. For now, I'm just trying to arrange all of the rooms here. This will be the living area. Now, most likely right here, we're gonna have the bathroom, and then we can have the closet here. We're gonna see how that will look. I think 1.2 meters here will be more than good enough, so we'll be fine in terms of distance there for circulation room. We'll extend this up to here, and then this wall, I'll probably bring it right here. Now, the reason why I'm leaving the entrance to the room here instead of here is because there is an extra level of privacy when someone is getting out or inside the bedroom. So like, it's not directly visible from, you know, a lot of angles of the interior, right? Right, so let's delete this, let's delete this. Let me also add with a polo line a full on parameter, just to kind of have a bit of a division between the color of the actual side and the color of the interior. We're gonna add flooring and hatching and everything a bit later on, but this is just for now. Let's also add the walls for the 2 extra units. I still haven't decided which one will be the workspace and which one will be the gym. And I'm gonna have to find a good reason for choosing which is gonna be which, because I think there should be some sort of logic in terms of choosing that as well. Now, this whole space, I'm a bit worried that it will be a bit, I guess, underutilized. So I'm not sure how I'm going to utilize this space here. And I'm talking about this space, because I think right here is going to be enough for a living room. Yeah, I think we could leave this an outdoor separate area, if you're thinking about it, because I mean, the kitchen is going to be enough here, the island is going to be enough here, the dining room, like the dining area can even come a bit further down this side, and then we can have the living room right here, right? So this space here, so we can just leave the entrance to, you know, the pantry and everything, but really, I think this space here is a bit, it's going to be a bit underutilized. So if I just add a bit of a soft red there and lower the opacity, like we could easily just remove that and not be left over with anything, which we're not going to miss out on a lot if we just make this smaller over here. So I think yes, but how will it make sense in terms of volume? I'm not sure, because there's going to be like a bit of a, yeah, I don't know. Let's just first make it a bit smaller. So I'm just gonna take it over on this side a bit. Let me bring this over here. So I mean, this works well in terms of the entrance. Now the question is, what will we use this for instead, right? So I'll just close it off with some sort of exterior wall like this. Yeah, I mean, the question is, what will we use this for? I mean, doing an outdoor area here in the back, I don't find any function in that, to be honest. Secondly, I mean, the shape in the back here is a bit too zigzaggy, which I'm not the biggest fan of. Does it make sense in terms of function? Yeah, I think a bit better because all of that space was being a bit unused. And we can leave this as breathing room, as circulation to go up here, etc. Like this, I do not see as a problem anymore. But I do not like the, I don't know, the zigzaggy nature of the back of the house, to be honest. So what I'm thinking of doing is just removing that part of the entrance completely. Let me delete this as well. Let me bring this up to here. I think we could give some sort of landscape hint and make it a bit easier to access if we kind of let the entryway be here. And that will help a lot. Can we make this, like if I look at this area, it's just still way too zigzaggy, like too many angles. I don't mind having this here, and we have to get some sort of sunlight here from the east 100%. Will this room be too small? Would this room be too small if it actually was a bit shortened out to here? This would be 12 square meters. That's not too bad. It is a bit small though. So this could be the pantry, laundry room. You know, something else that I could do as well is I could just extend this way. I could, you know, let me just measure this first. So this could be at 1.2 meters in terms of a wide enough corridor, and then I could just bring this up to here, and then I could take this off completely, remove this wall, and then this can be the pantry, and then this can be the laundry room, because then you will also have some sort of connection with a bathroom, which I think is good for water installations and everything else. So I can close this off, but basically what I did was I just moved that vertical wall from here to here, which is still not the biggest thing. Now the real question is, can I bring this, what width is this? So this is 1.5 meters. Yeah, I don't think we can make that any slimmer. I think we can make this wall. This right here, I do not mind. This is almost inevitable because we have to get lighting from the east. I think it's good that we move this over here and then added this to be the laundry and this to be the pantry. I mean, I'd love for this to come over here, but I mean, the room will just get way too small. I mean, the other option is I just move this all the way down. I make this as a full room. So I just make this a room. And then, I mean, I can also make the pantry here. I mean, this is not going to be used anyway, right? So I can have some sort of hidden door, and this can be the pantry, and then we can make this the bedroom, which I think works fine. I don't see any issues with this, right? This can be the pantry. This is the kitchen, the island. Bedroom is bigger now. Definitely needs more lighting here, though. I'm going to see how we're going to address that in just a second. This could be good enough for at least a little bit of lighting. All right, so we've made the house a lot more efficient in terms of space. Definitely was getting a bit out of hand with, you know, a lot of unused space there. So this makes a bit more sense. It has a little bit of jump. It has a little bit of symmetry in terms of looking at the layout. So I do not mind this. It's just that now this room is a bit small. So how big is this? 12. Ideally, I like that to get at least to 15 square meters. How are we going to do that? I mean, we can extend it this way. We can move this a bit downwards as well. And then we can extend this way too. All right, how does it look like? Okay, so now these are 16 and 15. I think they're about equal now, that's fine. So I think I like this quite a lot. I think it is a lot more efficient in terms of space as well. If I measure this now. Okay, so this can be the pantry. I'm gonna close this off for now. We can add the doors and everything later on. Let's just add the fill, make the stroke dark black 1.4 in terms of points, and boom. Okay, close off the wall, and that's good now. All right, so what I find a bit troubling here is the entrance sill. Like, I think that the bedrooms here are quite nice. They have the bathroom, we have the laundry room, we have the pantry, which is even too large, but we can make this smaller in a second. The living area is going to be here, nice and big, very good outdoor connection. Now the entrance is what I'm a bit skeptical on, and for some reason I feel like some sort of arc here would be nice. The entrance coming up to here is a bit not too good in terms of accessibility. I'm trying to find ways that I could approach this better. I don't think it's the biggest deal, it would definitely be nice though. The entrance needs to feel a bit more organic and a bit seamless. I mean, ideally the entrance would be here. You have a layer of, you know, stopping all of the, I don't know, stopping the air, cold air coming inside, so there's a layer of protection, and then you can obviously take off your shoes here and then get inside like this. But then what do we do with the toilet? I mean, the toilet, even like this, one thing that I wouldn't like about it is that there's no sort of, obviously the privacy is inside the bathroom, but in the sense, like, I don't think it would be nice just to see someone getting outside of the bathroom with wet hands, going into the living room. Like, I'd want it a bit more in the shadows in that sense. Let me press Shift and O. So I'll just add the entrance door here. Well, this would serve very well as an entrance. Now that I'm thinking about everything, I mean, we could also extend this wall a bit and then leave this toilet that we have dealt so much with right here. I mean, it wouldn't be a bad thing. In fact, we could extend this just a little bit more for that extra privacy that I talked about, and then we can have the living room here. Someone goes to the toilet, not directly visible. It's also close to the dining area, you know, washing your hands before and after eating. It could make sense leaving it here as well, honestly. I do not see why not. And I think this is going to be what we're going to go after. Okay, so with that said, the next step is, let me add the room. So if I go ahead and add this would be the room tool. And basically once you click in a closed space inside the walls, it will tag them. It will measure the area inside of it, and then we can also add hatches or textures inside of it. So I'm going to do this for each and every one of them. This is going to help with labeling everything. It will make it quite clean actually. So let's just add this. Let's go here, room. Let's just add this. And now we've basically dealt mainly with a main unit, but these two, I don't think they're going to be hard to organize everything. We're going to do that a bit later on. So this is going to be the master bedroom, and I can go ahead and I can rename it like this. Then this is going to be the closet. This is going to be the master bathroom. This is going to be the entryway. This will be living plus dining plus kitchen. Right, and then this is going to be a WC. I'm not sure if WC is actually a European thing. This will be pantry, and then this will be bedroom 1, bedroom 2, bedroom 3. All right, and then this is going to be the bathroom. Let's just leave this as the laundry room. I mean, this can also be an open closet just to not, you know, make it harder to access everything with a door here. But let's see. Now, what I will do next is I'll add the hatches for all of these. I'm going to go to hatch. This can be the herringbone flooring. We're going to leave the opacity to like 20%. And let's just, you know, I'm going to leave the scale like this because when you zoom out, then there's going to be just way too much noise. And by noise, I mean too many repetitions are going to be very like miniature, very small. It's going to look like particles. It's not going to look nice, just believe me. Even though it's not realistic maybe to have this scale, just leave it like that. Closet is going to have the same material, so we're going to do hatch, herringbone, let's do 30%, right? Let's select this. Let's do a hatch, let's do 30% here too. Bedrooms, all same thing. We're gonna go to herringbone flooring, 30% opacity just to make that lighter. We're gonna go to bedroom, we're gonna go to hatch, we're gonna go to herringbone, 30%. Let's go to bedroom, let's go to hatch, let's go herringbone, and let's go 30%. Okay, and now we can select the master bathroom. Let's go to fill, let's go to hatch. I'm going to go ahead and select this, the offset siding. Let's go with 30%, less opacity, and then let's leave the scale at like 10. I think that's going to be good enough. Even the weight, let's just leave it at 0.5. Now let's do 0.2. Let's duplicate this. In fact, I will just delete all of these which should have the same texture. And then we can rename this as entryway. Let's duplicate this. Let's delete WC. Let's go ahead and type in toilet. I'll just leave it toilet for all the American viewers in case it's not called that in America. I'm going to rename this pantry. Let's duplicate this. This will be laundry room. So this will help with the correct labeling. And honestly, it's going to look nice once we have a base set of textures and everything. It's going to make it much easier, you know, when we place the furniture and the furnishing on top. And then this will be bathroom. Okay, I think I'll continue with the doors now. First of all, I'll make sure to edit these and make the stroke all the way black. So I definitely would want these to be a bit more visible. Let's make it 0.8 points. Let's just duplicate this. I don't think we're going to leave a door here at the closet. This will probably be... Now you see how like the texture of the closet and master bedroom has gotten all messy. We can just go to wall and we can use a separator, which basically separates the zone, and we can just draw the separator like this. Let's just make sure that it's at a 90-degree angle, and then that's going to be about it in order to separate this correctly. All right, and then I'll duplicate this door. So let's egress this outside and let's just swing it to the right. So we're adding the openings one by one like this, and as you can see, slowly everything is coming out alive. So let's duplicate this. So let's just flip this to the outside. That's the entrance to the toilet. Let's duplicate this. Let's place the same thing here. Let's egress this inside. And I think it could be a bit smaller here in the laundry room. Let's duplicate this same door of the toilet, and then we can leave this here for the bathroom. Let's egress it on the inside as well. And I think we could move it over here too. Let's duplicate this. This can be same for the bedroom. Let's egress it on the other side. Let's flip it to swing to the left. Right, so I think in terms of doors here in the main unit, I think that's going to be good enough for now. I think I'm going to lower the opacity of the hatches even further. And I think something like that is good enough for now. So we have some of the openings. This is going to be a hidden door. We're going to draw that a bit later on. Now, in terms of windows, let's see how we are going to approach this. Okay, so I would want a wider but shorter window here. I'm thinking of it, so something like this. Then I'll duplicate something right over here at the toilet. This is going to be a lot smaller. I'll leave it somewhere here at the pantry. I think the pantry is probably going to be dark because it's going to have cabinetry all over it. Then for the bedroom, we're finally going to be able to use this part here to let in that sun rising light. And then we're going to put, and then let's see where we will be placing the bed here. But I'll just leave some sort of larger window that we can arrange later on in terms of where we place it and everything. All right, then over here, the light is definitely coming from this side too. So we're probably going to have a large window here. It's probably going to be a sliding window. And I'm thinking over here to maybe do something, some sort of attraction for kids. So, you know, they could go straight from here, sliding windows, and then, you know, start their mornings on this side. I think that's kind of designing by lifestyle in that sense. If I go back to the reference image now, this part here is very important in terms of how we place the windows with the very thin frames. So if I go to our reference image, I like this uniform size of windows, and it's probably going to start from, yeah, I think I'd like a bit of light to come in here as well. Not sure about this. All right, so let's place this window here. Let's resize this. Let's increase this in size too. So most likely this will have a width of about, and I think 4 windows of this size are going to be very good fit in this wall. Now what we can do is we can also select all 4 of them and make sure they align perfectly with the space we had intended. So I'm going to resize them from the side to something like this. And I think this will be pretty good. And I think I'm going to like this a lot. So there's going to be a lot of sunlight coming here. So these are going to have a lot of sunlight. And for the master bedroom, we're going to add these windows here. So once you wake up, you have this beautiful view at the front. And then we could probably leave another one here on the side. Or, I mean, it could also be a corner window, which I think would look very nice. I'm going to resize these windows to something like this. Cool. So now we have the windows, we have the doors, we have the rooms and the area set up. We do have the walls put in. Now we can also get started with the furnishing, at least for this main unit. And we're probably going to work later on with the outside as well. I mean, these trees, I'm gonna make them a lot simpler in terms of how they look, most likely. I don't like these being so green and taking so much attention in the floor plan. This deck area could go all the way over here and will most likely extend to connect these two. Okay, so now let's start with the furnishing. I just imported this bed here. What we can do as well is we can just get these armchairs with a round coffee table. I think this would be a nice addition to the room. So let me just add this here. Let's rotate this as well. I'm getting these closer to the light. And then I can use the O shortcut to draw the actual coffee table. Let's add the same fill as all of these, and let's just make it a 0.4 in terms of thickness of the stroke. This has a lot of circulation room, and I just like it that way. I mean, it's fine if it's a bit more spacious. I don't mind it, because I mean, technically we could just bring this a lot more like towards here and then leave an entrance to the master bedroom and then close this off, but I mean, that's fine. So in terms of the closet, we're going to need something with 60 centimeters width, and we can just leave it like this. Let's duplicate it. Let's rotate it vertically. I'm going to select both of these pieces, and that's going to be enough. And I think at the same time, we do not need another one here, because then it's just going to be way too tight. So let's do 0.4 in terms of thickness of the stroke. We're going to need one of these here in the entryway as well. I'm not going to leave them all the way up to the wall, because we do want the stroke of the wall visible as well. All right, then the pantry here doesn't need to be full on 60 centimeters. This can just be 40. I'm going to draw this with a pole line. I'm going to get to 0.4 meters this way. If this is 156, this can be 116. We can go over on this side. Then if this is 342, this can be 302 minus 40 basically. Then if we go downwards, I'm going to have it snap onto that. Let's go for 0.4 over this way. So now once again, there is some mess up here with the textures. Simply fix that with a separator. We can just draw it right here, and this will separate the two zones. So let's furnish everything one by one. So even for the bathtub here, what I think I'll do is I'll just kind of fill up with a rectangle. This can be a shower, a bath, whatever. This is, by the way, just the schematic design. So we do not have to get super hyper detailed about everything, but it's just good to kind of have an idea. And then over here, I can place a basin in the bathroom, so I can just drag and drop this. I can just rotate it twice and then place this right here. I can increase it in size if I want to, so something like this. And then I can just drag and drop a toilet and then rotate it twice for something like this. All right, even here, if you want to be even more accurate, we can just leave it kind of as a glass separation, something like this. Let's put just some light blue color into it. I can draw another rectangle like this and another circle. So then this can be, for example, the shower head. This might be a bit too wide, so I can just move this a bit over here. All right, and then I can just duplicate this. I can leave the basin there, and then I can rotate the toilet right here. We can add another rectangle just for a bigger countertop to be able to at least use it to leave some stuff on top of it. Let me just put the basin in the front. So that's going to be the pantry, and then over here I can just use this. I can use one of the stoves, and then the fridge is not a big issue. Now over here, I think I would like to have the sink here on the island. I can have the actual oven right here, and then I could probably just leave a large fridge, which could be 1.2 meters. So then this, we can just make it a bit darker to show that it has some extra height and that it is the fridge. Then if you go here at the island, what I want to do is I like to extend this a bit further, and then I think I'll leave some space here. I'll just leave some leg room. I think I'm going to go here at the stroke. I'm going to make this dashed, and I'll make this a lot thinner, something like this. And then I can scroll downwards. I can drag and drop these chairs, and I think 4 of these might be enough. By the way, If you can notice, I'm putting them a bit irregularly. This may come because I have a rendering background and you usually want some sort of irregularities in everything you place. The placement looks a bit more natural. So this looks like an area that has been used. So then here we can just have the dining table. Then we'll leave 3 chairs over on this side, and then I'll duplicate this and mirror it over on the other side of the table. I'll move this a bit backwards, and then I'll just bring this to front. And the table might be a bit too wide. So then over here, it is pretty natural to have some sort of unit. I mean, it could be a TV unit, which is way too large for a TV unit. It could also have some sort of storage built in there. It could have some sort of, I mean, I could have maybe some more special glasses here, maybe the wines or anything like that, closer to the kitchen, closer to the dining area. And then here at the seating area, I will add something like this. And then I could just add, for example, 2 round coffee tables. I'll add the fill here, and the larger one is most likely going to be in front. I'll just move the labeling. And by the way, the labeling is going to look a bit neater later on. And I mean, the communication with the outside is good enough. These tables might be a bit too big. I could also just make them smaller and move them around. But this is a quick basic arrangement of how I would imagine the furniture to be here. I mean, we could also add rugs and everything, but we'll do that later on. Then I can just copy all of these elements to the other bathroom. All right, so now I'll just make a single bed here. I'll just move it a bit outside of the walls. I can just draft this manually pretty quickly, so we can use a rectangle. I'll draw this in. I'll just add another rectangle right here, and then add something like this. Could also add a table here. And then over here we could have this bigger unit that, for example, up to here, it would be the wardrobe. So this could be the wardrobe, for example. And then this could be a table to study, work at, or whatever else is needed. And then I will just bring these to front. And let's just rotate this a little bit so it is a bit more visible what this is. Let's duplicate this as well. I'll rotate it right here. We'll arrange it just like that. Let's duplicate this too. So this could be the wardrobe. If you think about it, it doesn't make sense to make this that large if you're gonna have a wardrobe there. And then let's just add the table here. We'll just make it a bit smaller. And then these could be sliding windows. That way there's still access to the outdoors from this side. And then we could basically just mirror this whole room to this side as well. Okay, and then we can make the window smaller from this side. Let's just make the table smaller from this side too. And let's just rotate this. So we could also just flip the bed. It would make more sense to put the bed over on this side of the wall. Because obviously it makes you feel a bit more in control of the entrance. I just think the windows would get way too small then. I mean, you could also leave a corner window here and a corner window here. But yeah, I mean, I could also just rotate it this way. Yeah, that doesn't feel right. It also feels like, I don't know. I'll just leave it like this for now, and then we'll take care of it later. All right, so in terms of how we address the secondary units, like for me, these two are going to be quite simple. Like we have a lot of flexibility in terms of how we're going to arrange them inside in terms of like the furniture and the workout area. And I'm not even going to put any equipment here because, I mean, it's just going to be a bench and whatever else. Like just a squat rack and a bench would be more than good enough. But for this, then for the office, I mean, I don't think I'm going to put anything there because I just want flexibility and I'm not sure, like I don't want to go to micro details. What I'm more worried about these two is in terms of volume. So are they going to are these going to go ahead and take up too much light here and you know, cause a lot of shadows in the inside? And I'm going to try to make that as minimal as possible. This I definitely imagine as a wooden deck. So I'm just going to leave it like that for now. And in fact, I think it's most likely going to get connected to both of these like this. So I'll leave those here. We know that this is going to be where we're going to come inside with the car. That's not going to take a huge amount of space. I mean, it's got to be something like this, right? Around, like, I think we could just park here. What I'd like to take a look at before I move to anything else is I definitely would want to start creating an elevation, a front elevation of this, so from this side, and to see the relationship between the volumes. I mean, we could do the drafting details later, so I'll just take care of this, and then if the volumes here are completely correct, and if I'm happy with how we manage that, I think we could move on to, you know, doing a bit more detailing of everything else. So I will just duplicate this. I will rename this elevation. Now what I will do is I will just draw these lines first. These will be guidelines, and we will pull these from the floor plan to exactly where we want to draw the elevation. Now the height of this is, so the height of the floor is going to be 3.4 as we mentioned earlier. So we'll do 3.4, we'll click enter, and this is going to be the height of it. We'll do 3.4 in terms of height. Let's just lower this here, even though it doesn't matter for now. And then we have these two units, which are going to be right in front of the main unit. And then I'll draw a separate rectangle for these two volumes for now. And then I'll just make this a darker gray. Then I'll just make this some sort of darker gray here. I'll duplicate it, and then I'll bring it over here. Now, let me take this off. This is a 25-degree angle off the roof, which I think is appropriate here. So 240 is the height from the ceiling, or I guess where the leveling of this happens. So I'll go 0.4, I'll click enter. Let's go over on this side, and I'll close this off. In fact, I can just make this a rectangle. Let's add a hatch for these. I'll just make this, I'll make it a lot smaller, and then I'll rotate it 135 degrees. And in fact, let's just duplicate this for now. I'll make this a solid fill of a very, very gentle light brown, and I will send this to back. If I get close enough here, then the hatch, I can lower its opacity quite a bit, and I'll make this a group for now. So now that I'm thinking about this, there are two ways that I can address this. So one of them is making just a one pitch roof. So something like this, right? Instead of going upwards and blocking a lot more of the light. And to be honest, I feel like this could be a potentially good solution. Let's just check. Here we have a 2.3 meters high. I think this could work. What might be an issue if we're thinking about the gym is that if we're gonna enter here, or like, I definitely would want the gym to have a view over this side and maybe this side as well. So we're naturally gonna have to place the equipment over this wall, which is gonna be the shorter one, which I do not like, right? Either way, we're having to place the gym equipment on the lower end of the roof. I mean, I could also just have it this way and not have any distractions visible. In fact, you know what? I'd much rather have the workspace on this side, and the reason being is that I would imagine myself being a lot better focused if I would have a view over here, like if I could just stare into the abyss, into nothing, rather than having it stare this way where there might be a pool and there might be a lot of distractions in that sense. So for that reason, I might leave the office here and then just have the gym over on this side. I'll definitely want the gym open towards the imaginary future pool, if I may say, right? So let's just lower this downwards. I'll make sure that it snaps with this. Okay. These could look symmetrical, and it would make it easier for a better view here. So if we look at the reference image here, it's all one material, which I really like. I think these are going to blend in with the same material here. And for that reason, I will just duplicate this. I'll make this just as big. I'll send it to back, and I'll just delete that. Then I'll be able to add the windows later on. I could just duplicate this as well, make this same size, or just mimic the same size, get this upwards, bring this to front, and then this could snap somewhere here. And these could probably have maybe a bit of a darker material, now that I'm thinking about it. So if I just use the fill and I go darker, let me go upwards. Let's take this off. And then I can just duplicate this. Let's flip it on the other side. So yeah, I mean, in terms of volume, it makes much more sense like this. We'll definitely have very minimal shadows caused. Let's see how everything turns out. Let me just add some sort of ground level here. We'll make this a lot darker. And I think we're definitely going to need to, you know, put this in a platform, in a higher platform. But I think that would be more part of the construction documentation, I think, because the functional and the scheme and everything else would stay pretty similar to what it is right now. But anyway, I'll delete this. I'll delete everything else, and I'll just keep the elevation here, because later on we're going to come back and edit this for, you know, adding the windows, adding everything else. This is just an idea to, you know, understand the volumes and the rest of the stuff. In fact, let's just make this A2. That's way too big. A3. So an A1. Format of the canvas. I'll just select this. Let's bring it somewhere here for now. Okay, so now I'm just going to get rid of some of the surroundings from the floor plan canvas. For some reason, it just allows me to focus better, much better. So I'll just move this right where it's supposed to be, right here. And I'll just now finally make the canvas smaller. Something like this could be fine. Okay, now let me go ahead and lock the background and also the site. All right, so I've added some typography just for the sake of demonstration of, you know, just making it graphically look better and fuller in that sense. I mean, this is not the exact, I don't have the exact surveying data for this site, but in your case, if you have it, so you can basically just upload it as a PNG of the topography and keep it in the back, and basically just having it as reference, because I want to slowly make this look much better in terms of graphic representation as well. Let me move this symbol a bit closer. I'm going to close this off too. And I mean, for now, I think for the floor plan, I'm just going to leave it as simple as possible, because I'm not going to be able to do like a lot of landscaping design here in the schematic phase. So I'll just take a lot of this off. If you want to know the context of everything, obviously we're going to have the site plan and the site analysis that we have here. And we can basically pretty easily just copy and paste this whole floor plan into the site plan if you want to know more about the relationship between the floor plan and the site. I want to keep this focused purely on the actual floor plan here. So over here, we're going to have a title block later on. So I'm just going to add a white box, just to remember that we do not even need to care about what we have on that side. So I'll leave that there. We're gonna have the north symbol somewhere here anyway. I'm gonna select all of this. I'll move this a bit to the left. I'll add the white fill here. I'm gonna go scroll downwards. I'll put this on top of the topography, and I'm actually gonna give it a bit of an opacity so that the actual topography lines are not that strong. Now the deck looks a bit like an overkill, I'm going to be honest, but we are going to figure that out as we go. This fill, I think both of these I can just make it that same white as a flooring, and then I can just duplicate them, put them on top of the existing fill. I'm gonna make it very low opacity. Then what we'll probably have is that I would probably just add a door here. Let's egress on the inside. And let's swing to the left. I'll duplicate it here, and then I'll also change the swing to the left. Let's do the same thing with the windows here. I think I definitely would want a view this way for the gym, which is going to be here. And then for the office, I'm definitely going to want the view to face on the other side instead. Okay, and then let's flip the swing to the right. Okay, so then I think I'm just going to add some sort of platform, which is just walkable all around the house. White solid fill, let's send this all the way to back first, and now I'll just move this a bit in front. 0.3 in terms of the line weight, and then I'll also lock it. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to the elevation. I have kind of the main volumes drawn out. What I'll do is I'll just move this upward as well, move this upward as well. So what I'll do here is, oh, by the way, I'll probably gonna have like not so tall window. I'm probably gonna have a shorter window, but quite wide on this side as well. I want to have a view to the river too. So I'm just gonna duplicate this, and then I'll just go ahead and place it there. So what I'll do is I'll just copy this wall and then copy this wall together, with all the windows. I'll duplicate this and then I'll take it over here on this canvas. So now what I'll do is I'll just add on the guidelines for the windows. There's going to be the same one over here. And then for these ones, we're going to have them right there. And these are going to be full height. Also going to have the guidelines for where we need the frames to be placed. So this will be one window then. I was going to make this a gray. This will be the other one. Then this one. And then this one. And then for these one, I think we're going to have to go about 120 centimeters from the ground. So 1.2 meters. And then I think just an 80 centimeter height for the windows themselves. And then I can just delete the rest of these. I'll just apply the same fill to these windows as well. I'm leaving them dark for now. I'm going to take care of everything later on. I can just duplicate this to the other windows too. I can delete the guidelines. I can delete the guidelines for these as well. And then I don't think I need anything else from that. And one more thing that I'll do here real quick is the hidden gutter. So if I go near here, you can see that there is a hidden gutter here, which is a nice feature, and I think it just makes things a bit sleeker and less exposed. So if I actually go, I can just draw a rectangle from here up to here. I think 20 centimeters for this is going to be more than good enough. I can move this upward a little bit. I'll move it up to, let's say, 1 repetition of the hatch. I'm going to get a bit closer. And this is about 1 repetition of the hatch as well. I'll make this a bit of, it's a little bit more darker brown. I'll make this 0.4. And I mean, even 20 centimeters seems a bit too much. I think if I just leave it at around 0.15, that's going to be fine. Okay. So let's not forget that we're also going to have another frame here just for the sliding windows. I think I'm going to leave it 2 centimeters thick. I'm just going to apply the same fill as this because this fill is not going to serve us as the actual glass. I'm just leaving this for the frames themselves. So now what I'll do is I'll just make a light blue fill, and now I will just make these for 4 centimeters, or let's actually do 8 centimeters less on all on both width and height, and that would be 4 centimeters less on each side. So this would be 3.74, and then this would be 3.32. Now all we have to do is just get this placed in the center. All right, so now I'm just going to duplicate this over here. Another 4 centimeters for the frames on this side. I'll just move this a bit upwards too, so that it is fully correctly placed. Now let's just duplicate this further as well. And then on this one too. Okay, so we do have the glazing placed on these. As you can see, this is slowly coming along quite nicely. Let's do the same thing over here. We only have the frames on the side, so this does not have a division of that sort. So the fill, we're gonna leave the same shade of blue as we have over there. And then we can just duplicate this on the other side. Okay, so if we start detailing this in, basically we are definitely going to have some shadows from this side here and here. So we're just imagining that there's going to be sunlight and we can add some shadows. This will help with depth and everything else. You can just leave this at like, I don't know, 40%. This will add some extra shadow here. In fact, that's a bit too much, and we're going to remove the stroke completely. Let's just leave it at like 10%. 10% seems too little now. Let's do 25. Okay, that is a bit better. We can also add reflections to the glass here as well. Let's add a little bit of these shadows on these 2 windows too. Let's take this to 100%, and then basically what we can do is I can just have this selected, apply the same fill as here, and then select both of these and make them at 25%. So now they are at the same level in terms of shadow darkness. And then let's just apply this here. So let's just draw with a polyline quickly 2 of these shapes, which will simulate the reflection of the light. These should just add another layer of depth to our elevation drawing here. Let's remove the stroke completely. In fact, we can increase the opacity just a little bit more. I'll duplicate this as well. So now I'm going to make this a group and I'll duplicate further. Okay, so now that I just drew a bit more details, like, I don't know, the rest of the frames and everything. One, I might, for the sake of proportions, just add another extra layer of, like, just add another window here. I mean, it is for proportions. It also could play a role into lighting up this hallway because this is a bit of a maze in that sense. So if we just add another window up to here, more lighting might go over in this side. Or maybe that's just me trying to, make a reasonable, come up with a reason to add another window, or just to, take care of my OCD here. It just really needs a window. Second thing, I don't think I will have this window here. The views might be nice though. That's an argument. However, symmetry. It just loses symmetry because I don't think I'll be able to add another window here. Or, I mean, will I? Most likely not, to be honest. So yeah, I think I'll just leave it at that. I think I'm going to remove this window completely, and then most likely add another window here. So I'll just add this here. I'll make sure that it's fully aligned with the wall. I'm going to delete all of these just to make sure that the windows are all in the same size, because even on the elevation, I just let it slide in the sense that they were not all the same size, and it just doesn't look right. It needs to have some sort of rhythm. And then I'm gonna update that on the elevation next. Once this elevation is also done, what I think I'll do next is I'm gonna go ahead and do even more detailing on the rest of the stuff. So we're gonna do annotations, dimensions, doing quotes, all the heights, etc. And you know what? I really like the graphical representation of these tones of brown here, and even a beige background here. So maybe we'll apply some of that here on the floor plan as well. We'll see, but I don't think we're standing too bad here, to be honest. We have a good relation. Like this was the schematic elevation that I did in the beginning. With this is basically the diagram, the functional arrangement, and this was the site analysis, the photos and everything. So I think this is going to come out very nicely as we progress along here. All right, so now next up, what I will do is I'm going to go ahead and measure all of these windows correctly. So I go ahead and place them in the actual elevation correctly too. So what I will do is I'll just copy all of these windows. Control C, go inside the frame, Control D, and then just drag these right inside of the other frame. In fact, you know what? I just need this first one, and then I can just duplicate it. So I'll select every single component or element here inside the window, and then I will just go ahead and resize it to about here. Now I'll duplicate this, and I'll just go ahead and get them side by side, and then I will remove the strokes in just a second. So now I'll just select all of the groups. I'll go ahead and ungroup them. I'll remove the stroke, and I think this is perfectly fine in terms of how the windows should be placed. So now as I'm looking into this, I think it would be nice to have some sort of opportunity for a fireplace as well. So what I could do is I could just make this a lot smaller, maybe if needed, even extend it that way. All right, so I'm thinking to also add the pool. The pool is going to be probably something like 11 meters by 6 meters. I know it's big, but I think it only makes sense if it is this way, or at least this is not like the full exact pool. This is with the outlines. So I'll just make this a white fill. I'll duplicate this, and I'll make this for 2 meters smaller, so 9 by 4. I'll make this 10 by 5. I'll place this in the center, and now this is going to be a light blue. Now let's duplicate this. Let's make this 9.5 by 4.5. We can also get this in the center. Now what I can do is I can do, for example, 6 stairs right here. So something like this. Let's actually do 5, so I'll duplicate this as well. And then we can do something like a step throughout the whole pool, which would be 30 centimeters. So if up to here it's 3.34, then we need 3.04. And if it's 9.2 here, we need 8.9. And then if it is 4.2 here, we need 3.9. And then we can close this off. One thing I'll do though is these lines that are inside the pool, I will make them a lot thinner because, I mean, the hierarchy needs to be that way. So we'll do 0.4 on these, and then we'll make this 2 points a bit thicker just to be visible as a full-on outline. Now I'll close this off, and then I will add a tile texture right here. Then I'll just go ahead and then send this to back, but we'll just bring it in front a few layers upwards. Actually, we can also test out some other textures. So then we're just going to add tiles on the outside of the pool. The deck is a bit large here. However, this distance is very useful to not block a lot of the light here. One thing that I will do now is that I will actually add shadows. So I'm going to start by adding shadows here. I will go at around a 50-degree angle. So now we're also doing it for the exterior walls of the house. So now the fill, of the shadows, I think I'll just leave it at 8%. I want it a bit more subtle. It's enough to add just a little bit of depth. These are going to be a bit to emulate the pitch of the roof. As good as I could have. Okay, now the first thing that I want to do is I want to kind of tidy up the whole floor plan. One thing which is super easy is just to align the labeling of the rooms. So for example, this and this can kind of be in the same alignment horizontally. Same with a master bathroom. The entryway can, come just a bit closer like this. Now this makes it a lot easier to read. It makes everything be a bit more neat. Actually, I can just bring this a bit to this side and then also the closet like this. Living, dining, and kitchen, I can leave it over here. I can bring this a bit downwards. These are kind of almost aligned. And then here I can just align the bedroom with the bathroom and the laundry room, and then these two over here. Okay, cool. So now I could also add grid lines. These do not have to be 100% accurate in terms of like how they would have to be for construction drawing, because usually even for like construction, there could be some engineer that looks over this, right? And then I could just add 2 horizontal ones. So one for this wall. Okay, so now basically what we can do is I don't have to, write tags for all of them. What I can do is just add a circle for all the grid lines. And then now what I can do is I can just duplicate these. We move on to the elevation, and I can place them just like this to add a bit more detail. So one thing that I want to do is I'm thinking of giving this a bit more of a theme. So for example, this can be this beige fill here. In fact, it could even be a bit darker or something like this. And then I log this away. And then if I select, I'm going to give it a bit of a beige color as well. And then what I'll try and do is let me actually choose all the walls. So I'm going to make a quick experiment here. So now I think we have a bit of a more congruent graphic representation of this. Let's make this an A2 format as well. In fact, let's just increase it first. Let me get a bit closer. Okay, so now what I will do is, I'll just add a quick quote. This isn't any major information, but it's still a nice to have. I'll make this a bit smaller. Let's go here at the text, and I'll type in ±000. This is usually the standard operating procedure with something like this. So let's just make the text 18 points. And then here I can just duplicate it. I can get this inside. I can do plus 15 centimeters. And then here I can do, like all of these are in reference to this quote. Here I can do, I guess plus 20. These are all imaginary. I'm just kind of showing you what could go into a floor plan, just to make it look more fuller in that sense, right? So these are all elements that maybe these are a bit more construction heavy rather than schematic, but still a nice way to demonstrate stuff. And then I'm going to go ahead and use this. This is an elevation / section quote. So where would we actually need these? I would say we'd have one right here, another one right here, so that's another height, and then I'll just duplicate another one and then I'll fix everything in just a second. Then if I go right here, I can use the text once again, and then for this one, this could be plus minus 000. Let's make this 28. I'll duplicate this. This will be 233. Then this would be 344. Let me just delete this minus here. And then finally, the height of the whole home is going to be 580. Okay, cool. So let's take this and make it A2 format. So I'm going to make the background fill same as this. Okay, so let me just duplicate this. I'll actually put it right here, and we will add the title blocks in just a bit. Just an effect, you know, just for some extra design, I guess, credits, is we can do something like this for the ground, just to give it, you know, a bit of variation. Then I can use the Shift plus P shortcut to use the freehand pen, and I'm going to use this for the background here. I will select it, I will send this all the way to back, and then the fill, I'll use the same color as this first. I can just delete the stroke, and then maybe I can just leave it at 5 first. If you want to add even more layers, I mean, we could definitely do this. So I can just duplicate this, I can flip it, and then I can just send this to back. Let me actually make it 3% here. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here to text, and I'm just going to add some quick dimensions. What you'll notice is that we can also add chain dimensions. So we do not have to restart the tool one by one. We can just, you know, create it once. So now I'm just going to go ahead and add some dimensions. Once again, this will give extra information on the floor plan. So it's something that is going to, you know, just add a lot more context once again. And then let me just add one dimension that goes all the way to the other side. And then I can just add another one from here to here. And then obviously we can just add 2 more for over this side. Okay, and then basically I've gotten a title block ready here, and I'm just gonna put it right onto this frame. And then I'll just copy it to the elevation as well. And then finally, we just have one facade view. What I can do is I can just add this annotation here, which basically shows what angle is the facade from. Okay, so if we take a look back, we're kind of done with a schematic floor plan here. Then we also have this elevation that we drew here, which I think looks quite nice. Now we're gonna move on to visualization to kind of finish off the whole presentation. You know, we have a lot of the process here. So what I'll do here is that I'll select this whole drawing. And basically what we can do is now I'll make this an A2 paper size as well, but with a 1:200 scale. And if I get just a little bit closer, I'll move this to the left as well. Let me get this a bit closer too. And now I can select title block. So now if we just go back to the title blocks, I can just rename this elevation. And this can be our site analysis. And the scale is 1:200. No, this is not the site analysis. This is going to be the diagram. Okay, so now we're going to go into visualization with Synapse, and I think this is one of those things where it shines with AI. We are going to go ahead and turn this 2D floor plan into a 3D render in 9.8 seconds without 3D modeling, and the same with this elevation. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and get started with elevation first. And in order to do that, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this. I want a copy of this instead of obviously working on the elevation, messing something up, and I want a bit more control over the layers here. So I'm going to use this just for the visualization. So I'm going to take out the title block. I'm going to take out the quotes because that's just going to be an input that we do not need here. I'm going to take these out. I'm going to take out the grid lines. And then other than that, I mean, I'm just going to go ahead and remove the stroke on all of these reflections, we could also just take them off completely to not give any wrong input to the visualization. So in fact, I would call this stage getting things ready for visualization. And then what I will do finally is that I will select all of this. I'll move this a bit downwards, and then I will increase this in size. Okay, so now I'm going to select the frame and I'm going to type in create a white model render of this. Keep the scale 100% there. This is a contemporary minimalist villa. The two darker units, the two darker fills at the front are separate units. So I'm going to click send. And let's see, in 9.8 seconds, we should have a render created just from this elevation. Now, the reason why I'm not going fully into the actual, final render and giving the details for atmosphere and everything is that we're going to go step by step with iteration, because AI works a lot better when we want to add stuff instead of take things away. Okay, so now create a realistic render of this during springtime. Some small hills in the background, but the land which this is built on is flat. Okay, let's try giving it a specific location. Okay, so we have the river in the front. We have the house overall. So this is getting very, very nice. Make both the roof and the facade a light natural strip wood. The strip wood should be vertical. Then what I'd like to do is, let me see if I can actually copy these two units. Okay, so this is quite nice actually. And then I'll say add these two darker brown units at the front. These will be separate units and detached from the house. These could be ADUs as well, so additional dwelling units. All right, let's click send. Let's see what it generates now. I mean, we're not too far off, and I mean, I wouldn't mind even if we don't add the ADUs here in the render, but it's just nice to have it a bit more accurate. So this is actually pretty close, and I like this. Now, what I would say, I'm gonna try and highlight the area in the back. So I'm gonna say make the red part a roof for the home, because it is completely vertical. It's shown like an actual wall right now. Okay, let me change this up. Make the red part mark up a roof for the home. Give it the same material as the facade. So now then I can just say make the roof same strip wood as the rest of the house. So now we have the pitched roof and everything else, and I think we're getting pretty close here. What we can do as well. Okay, so this is getting pretty good. So as you can see, it takes some iteration because we did a bunch of renders until we came to this one. However, let's do one more thing. Let's add a deck here first, and then we're gonna add the pool as well. So I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna make this red just because it's just a more differentiated. I'm gonna say add a dark wooden deck in the red markup. Okay, so that is a bit too much, but actually it's not too bad. In fact, what I would say is let's make it similar to this. Okay, so now we can say add a pool in the red markup. Okay, so this is actually quite nice. Now what I'm going to tell it is make the river wider. I mean, this is how fast, like, I love the fact that we don't even have to 3D model this. It takes iteration, as you can see, right? Because I mean, it's AI, it's not going to understand everything 100% at a time, but if you're careful and add things one by one, it's actually going to work quite well. So I'm going to delete this completely. And then let's try something. So I'll say, make the wood less saturated in the facades. And then I would actually try something. So give it an overcast atmosphere and add furniture and lighting in the interior. Let's delete this now as well. Let's delete this. I'm going to say, make this realistic like it is in Switzerland. Now, one pro tip, which is very weird, is that AI seems to perform a lot better when we actually specify a certain place. So we can say Finland, and then we can say another mountainous place. Let's say, I don't know. So this, I like it a lot as well. Let's say make this realistic like it is in Bulgaria. Okay, so I'm just gonna continue with this one. I'm just gonna make it, okay, so let's say add furniture in the interior, make it dusk time, and add warm lighting inside the house. So this is actually quite nice. I like this quite a bit. And it's funny how the AI randomly has gotten right the living room, the dining room, and everything. So this is not 100% correct, but it's going to slowly get there. Okay, so now we have the exterior render here, which we are going to use as the cover for the project. So what I'll do is I'll just add a quick rectangle. This is going to be probably some sort of beige like this, and then I'll just make this a bit lighter, so something like this. Let's send this backward, send it backward. Actually, let's just send this to back. I'm going to select the frame. We'll call this the Riverside Home, and then let's do 400. No, let's actually do 300. Okay, now let's do this 150, and then let's do 80. Let's turn this into normal. I think that's going to look a bit better. Let's go to the interior. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate the floor plan. I'm going to go up here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the camera tool, and basically what we can do is now we can just click once on the starting point and another time towards the direction we want the image taken in, and we can choose a field of view, and we can turn on live preview to see how this is being rendered. So now once we see how this is being rendered, I'm going to go ahead and say create a white model render of this, keep the structure and scale 100% as it is. Okay, so now that this is done, we can say make the ceiling parallel to a pitched roof. Right, so now we want a pitched roof ceiling. Let's see if the AI is going to get this correctly. So as you can see, this is all real scale based on the floor plan, which is absolutely amazing. We have done the exterior render here. Obviously, these are not the tests, and not everything is perfect in terms of scale, but we've gotten good enough in order to visualize like some of the volumes and the pool and everything else. So it has got the roof correctly. Now we can say make the windows full size floor to ceiling. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to our inspiration images, and I'm going to choose this image. I'm going to select this image actually. We're going to go back here so the windows are now correct. So this is actually pretty good. So we do have a 3D render of this. Now what I will do is I'll go right here. I will attach the image in the prompt bar, and let's see what this will create. So add a kitchen and a dining table, keep the scale as it is, the structure scale and structure as it is, use the attached photo as an inspiration only for the mood and materials. Let's see what we get from this. Okay, so this is actually pretty nice. I actually like this a lot. So I'm going to say I'm going to use the polyline from here to here and then upwards. Let's make this red. I'm going to say make the markup same material wood wall. Awesome. This is so cool. Now make the outside view to have mountains and a river visible in Norway. Once again, Norway, Switzerland, whatever, it just helps for some reason AI to perform a lot better when it comes to, when it actually comes to getting it right. So the river is way too big. Let's just make it add a view outside to hills and a forest in Norway. So let's see what it creates this time, because this is a bit over exaggerated. Okay, so this is a bit better, and we can say add a wooden deck outside. Okay, so this is quite good. Okay, so as you can see, now after this whole session, we do have a schematic presentation that we can use to show to the client or to keep it for us. So we do have the exterior render here. We do have the site visit that we've done. We do have some site analysis, and then we have the diagram on how we kind of decided to distribute spaces. Then we have the schematic floor plan with some dimensions, grid lines, labelings, and everything else we've done. We do have an elevation. So I try to showcase as much as possible with even actual exterior visualizations and interior visualizations, all done inside Synapse, which, by the way, once again, this is the fastest way you could ever do all of these in one tool. It's on the web. It's free to get started in the first link in the description, and you should definitely try it out. And if you enjoyed this absolutely free course, you 100% are going to enjoy the next one to take you to the other level right here.